Welcome everyone to our third release management session in continuation of the Spotlight series that we commenced earlier this year. Today's session is going to be focusing on core HR. The last two sessions that we ran earlier this week and last week focused on talent recruitment and onboarding. And today is going to be looking at core HR primarily at Employee Central. We have our team over here with Josh, Divya, and Joe. I'm Eddie D'Souza. I look after the SuccessFactors practice from a capability perspective here at Deloitte. The agenda for today, we'll briefly talk about the SuccessFactors release management approach. We'll then look at key features from two releases, the second half of 2020 and the first half of 2021. Just like we've been doing in the other sessions, for those of you who didn't join the talent and the recruitment and onboarding, we'll go through the key platform features. We'll then dwell deeper into the Employee Central key features, and then we'll end with stories and people analytics with a specific focus on Employee Central. The intent of this session is to give you insights into some of the key features. We wouldn't be going through all of the features that have been released in the last half of last year and the first half of this year, but the intent is for you to get an understanding of some key and big ticket items. We'll then briefly talk about the release management offering from Deloitte before we wrap up today's session. Thank you, Josh. So for those of you who are across the release management approach, essentially every SuccessFactors customer gets now 2 drops a year. You get 1 drop in the first half, which has actually happened as we speak last week, and then you get another drop in the second half of the year. Some of you customers would have an early release test instance. What it means is that if you have an early release test instance, you would be getting a drop a month earlier than your production environment. Whereas those of you who don't have an early release test environment, you'd be getting the periodic release, half-yearly releases at the same time on your test and your production environment. Now, up until 2019, SuccessFactors maintained a quarterly release schedule, but from then they moved to a half-yearly release schedule. So releases come in 2 categories. Yeah, they're either an opt-in or they're a universal. When we say that a feature is universal, when SuccessFactors provides new functionality and they call it universal, it typically means that it is automatically applied to your instance, and they represent features that require minimal configuration. So as administrators of your respective organization, you could go ahead and actually turn it on and start using it. Or if they are mandatory in nature, then those are already turned on and are available for your users to apply. Yeah. The opt-in features are those that require some amount of configuration and may involve engagement from a partner or SAP support to be able to turn on that feature and roll it out for your organization. Now, these become evident when you go through the release notes or when you engage with a SuccessFactors partner, where they'll make you aware of whether a feature is universal or opt-in and the impact of turning it on. So with that, I'll hand over to my colleague, Josh, who will take you through some of the key features in platform. Thank you, Josh.
Excellent. Thanks, Eddie. Let me just start my video so you can all see me. So as Eddie said, my name's Josh Tonk, and I am going to be running through some of the H2 2020 and H1 2021 platform release features. And for those who joined the talent release management session last week or the recruitment and onboarding sessions earlier this week, you would have already seen some of this content. So apologies for the duplication, but it's important to go over these again. A, obviously for those people who didn't attend, and B, because these are platform-wide features and impact all customer instances, regardless of the modules that are implemented. So with that in mind, let's jump in. So as of H2 2020, SuccessFactors have released a new homepage. And this new homepage is essentially intended to make the user experience a little bit simpler and more engaging, as well as being a consistent user interface across both the mobile application and the web browser. Rather than talk to this slide, though, I thought it'd be better to jump into our demo environment to show the latest features, as it's always better to see it in the flesh rather than over PowerPoint. So let me just grab my instance up. So to start off with, let's just take a quick look at the current homepage, which hopefully everybody in this call is all too familiar with. At the moment, I'm logged in as an administrator, Anya Singh, who's got the current homepage enabled on her profile. So Just quickly take note of the look and feel just before I proxy in as our demo user, James Klein, who's got the latest homepage enabled on his profile, just so you kind of can see the difference side by side. So I'm going to proxy in as James. And the reason I wanted to have these two separate views is A, to see the two homepages side by side, but also to call out and demonstrate that it's possible to control who does and doesn't see this new homepage based on a user's role-based permission access. So this means you can enable the new homepage for a subset of permissioned users rather than the whole organization in one go if you want to do so. So this is what the new homepage looks like. And at the top of the page here, we can see a welcome banner, which is saying good afternoon. And this is intended to be customizable along with your organization's brand. So we can change the background image as required. Below this, you'll see the quick actions section. And this is where users can complete their most frequent or important actions. And depending on the type of action, a user might actually be able to complete this directly on the home screen via a popover window without the need to navigate to that section of the system. A good example of this is a time off request. So if James is interested in taking leave sometime soon, he can click the request time off tile and you'll see the time off UI immediately pops over the homepage without the need to navigate to that section of the system. Just going to cancel out of that. Again, different quick action tiles will have different behaviors. So for some, it might actually navigate you to that part of the system. And it's just dependent on the type of quick action and whether it's something that should be easily and quickly completed on the homepage or whether you actually need to be navigated to that part of the system to complete it. So below the quick action section, we can see the survey section. And this allows you to send out pulse surveys to users. It's particularly useful if you have Qualtrics integration set up in your SuccessFactors environment, but works equally well with other surveying tools like Google Forms or SurveyMonkey. So in this example, I've just linked out to a Google form, so I can click the Start Survey option, and that'll bring up a Google form that I've created already in the system that James would be able to complete. Below the surveys section is the organizational updates section, which contains custom content for the organization. So the way to think about this section is very similar to custom tiles on the legacy homepage and can be configured as such. Note that there are some restrictions though on what can and can't be configured on some of these custom tiles, and it's something that SuccessFactors is kind of working on with upcoming releases as to what can and can't be put on these organizational updates tiles. So those among you who use the homepage pretty regularly would have noticed that James doesn't actually have any to-do actions available on his homepage. This is one of the biggest changes to the new homepage, whereby any key actions that James has will be dynamically generated onto his homepage only if they're deemed high priority and relevant based on predefined SAP business logic. So James doesn't have any of those at the moment. And it's not actually possible to configure the types of to-dos that appear on the homepage. Having said that, all of James's pending actions can be found via the to-do icon in the top right of the screen here. So I can see he's actually got 13 to-do items. It's just that none of them meet the business logic required to populate them on the homepage at the moment. So this is quite I guess a bit of a change impact to end users if the new homepage is enabled. So definitely a key consideration when having a look at turning on this feature. The other key change from the legacy homepage is the inability to display tiles and workforce analytics reports. And these will need to be accessed either via the report center quick action or via navigating to the report center as you would currently. So that's the new homepage in a nutshell. I'm just going to quickly jump back across to the slide deck. And before moving on, the other call out I'd like to make is that this is currently an admin opt-in bit of functionality, but SAP have stated that the legacy homepage has now reached end of maintenance as of the last release, so May 21, and it'll actually be deprecated as of May 20, 2022, so H1 2022 next year. So in terms of future-proofing your SuccessFactors instances, it's definitely worthwhile exploring the new homepage functionality before it becomes mandatory, particularly given you can now roll it out to only certain target populations rather than the whole organization at once. So that's the new homepage. The next topic I'd like to chat about is the configuration center. And this is essentially intended as a modernized UI for transport and download of configuration within an instance or between instances. So for those who are familiar with the instance synchronization wizard, it performs a similar role as that tool, whereby you can move configuration from one instance to another. It's worth noting here that the configuration center only allows transporting of EC, talent management, people profile, and Qualtrics configurations currently between instances. So it doesn't quite do the same amount of transport options as currently supported by the instance sync wizard. So unlike the instance sync tool, in addition to transporting configuration, the tool also allows you to view and download application configuration rather than just transporting it. And the final thing to note with the configuration center is that it's not capable of triggering full instance refreshes either. So for example, refreshing a test environment with production and production data and configuration. So the instance sync tool still needs to be used for these kind of instance refreshes, but configuration copies and transports can be achieved through either. And the access to this tool is enabled via a role-based permission update. So I think for me, the key business benefit of the configuration center over the instance sync tool is kind of it's a way of simplifying and making consistent the approach for managing configuration within and between instances. It looks like this tool is going to be the go forward approach by SAP for configuration management and transports going forward. However, SAP haven't yet made it clear whether this is the end state for configuration center, i.e. to fully replace the instance sync tool. So for now, the recommendation is to get familiar with the new tool and watch this space for SAP updates. The second last feature I wanted to cover off on today is time-based proxy assignments. And this is a feature that customers have been asking for quite a while. Essentially, it allows you to grant proxy rights to a user for a predefined time period. And this means that the users who have been granted proxy rights can have those rights end dated at a time applicable to the reason that the proxy rights are being granted for. So if someone's going on leave, I can set up my proxy assignment to coincide with the start and end date of that leave. And so this update will be universally applied to all instances in the H1 2021 release. So if proxy management is enabled and something that you're using in your environment, this feature will be available with the new release. It's worth noting that the assignment of these start and end dates for proxy assignments is not mandatory. So there's actually nothing stopping a user still just applying proxy rights until the end of time currently. But it is good to see that SAP are kind of starting to roll out these customer requested features. So the last thing I wanted to touch on from a platform perspective is permission roles with new target populations. So permission roles can now be granted with manager or peer target populations. And what this means is a permission role can have a target population of users with the same manager, or another way to think about that is a permission role that defines what I can see and do to my peers, or a permission role with a target population of the user's manager. So a permission role that defines what I can see and do to my manager. And this is only achievable via quite complex configuration in the past, either through assignment of named users to target populations or by defining specific levels within the organization, both of which came with some drawbacks. Access to this feature, again, is universal as part of the H1 2021 release, but will obviously require a bit of analysis and configuration changes to permission roles to be able to utilize this functionality. So that's it from a platform perspective. I'm now going to hand you over to Joe, who's going to take us through the Employee Central features of the latest release.
Thanks, Josh. And while Joe is getting ready, if any one of you have questions, please feel free to post them in the Q&A feature of this session. We will be answering them when we send out the recording of this session along with the presentation. Thank you.
Joe, you're talking on mute.
Sorry, I'll start again. Hi, everyone. My name is Jo Bright. I'm Employee Central Solution Consultant here at Deloitte. And I'm going to take you through my top picks for the two releases in terms of Employee Central features. Oh. Okay, so I'm not going to focus too much on universal changes because you will have started to see these as you're moving through the system since they were applied last week already. But there are a couple of things that I did want to draw your attention to, which you may not have noticed yet, just for your awareness. So the first one that I wanted to talk to you about was a duplicate check for when you're doing a rehire process. So prior to this release, when you're doing a rehire or hiring an employee and you get the duplicate check box pop up, there was a limited number of fields being displayed for you to kind of validate against. So you had the termination date, date of birth, and the ID number. So that now has been expanded to include, some additional information so that you can, be a bit more sure that you're definitely getting a match. And so, improving the user, the process for the user and making this more efficient. So that's a universal feature that will be there if you are doing a rehire at the moment. The next item that I was going to talk to you about is the data replication monitor. So if you currently or have access to the data replication monitor, you may have noticed this already, but if not, just jump in there and take a look and make sure you can still access it, because I have had some people that needed to just have their permissions updated just to get access to this new view. It's basically been improved in terms of usability and performance. You can use the fields at the top here, so you can see the screen on the screenshot on the left-hand side is how this used to look, and then the screen on the right-hand side is the new look and feel. So you can use the fields at the top to make your selections, and then have a look at and see the status of data that's replicating or not replicating between EC and ECP or your SAP S4HANA or ERP system. Okay, so that's just an improved kind of usability function there. So this final universal feature that I wanted to talk to you about is the auto delegation timeframe. So this is kind of similar to the one that Josh mentioned earlier on, where this function has just been enhanced to allow for customers who are using the workflow auto delegation feature, to allow them to put a time frame on this. So I'm just going to jump in and actually show you in the system, just to refresh people's memories of where this lives, and just show you like the usability of this function. So in the quick links tile, if you have this enabled on your homepage, you might have this option auto delegate it within your favorites, or alternatively it might be in this available tab. So if I just click on this auto delegate, so previously you were only able to kind of turn it on and say who it is you want to delegate your workflows to. But now we do have this ability to pop a time frame in here. Again, it's not mandatory, but it is handy, because, for preventing people from enabling this and then leaving it there and forgetting about it. So in terms of actually selecting the date and time, you click on the date that it's going to start from, and then you can kind of scroll here or just type in a number, and then you can set it whether it's AM or PM. Okay. And then obviously just pop in the username for the person that you're actually wanting to delegate this function to. All right. Close. So that's the auto delegation. So that's all of the universal updates that I just wanted to mention. The next one, I was quite excited about this feature when I heard this was coming up, because I have on a few projects had requirements from customers where they might have something specific, a specific data set that's important to them as a business, that they've created a custom portlet for. And prior to this function coming on board, they weren't able to include that capturing of that data within their new hire process. So now what we can do is actually flexibly configure the hire process. So rather than just having that standard form, we can actually decide are there different cohorts within the organisation that we want to capture different information for when we're hiring them? Or do we just want a brand new template which we'll use as standard for everybody, but we want to capture some additional information in there that's specific to us as an organisation? So this gives us much more flexibility in the data that we're capturing during that hire process. So I'm just going to jump into the system again and show you that. So I'm just going to go from the add new employee function, but this functionality so it was released in the prior release, the ability to kind of flexibly configure the form, but it wasn't actually able to be used with manage pending hires. So as of this release, it is now able to be used for manage pending hires. So for those people, those customers who have recruitment and onboarding, this is something that you'll now be able to use. So if I come into the add new employee feature, what you'll get if you've got a new custom hire template configured is this pop-up box, which you wouldn't previously have had. And you enter some basic information in here. So I'm just going to pop in the company, because we've got, lots of companies in this demo system. And I'll pop in the event reason. So this is a new hire. And then I can select the template that I want to use. So the standard template being the one that you'll all be familiar with. And then this new hire template with license information is the one that I've created for this purpose. So, if you've got a customer who has, so this is for compliance purposes, we're needing to capture lots of information on licenses. So we've got a portlet that's been configured in the profile, and we're wanting to actually be able to capture this. So previously you would have had to, you wouldn't be able to fill this information in at this point in the hire. You would need to come back into the employee's profile after they've been hired into EC and populate the information. Now you're actually going to be able to do it as part of the process. So I'll just start typing some information in here and then get down to the block that you want to see. Now, in terms of these sections, so you've got the identity section, the bio info, you can customize all of this. So if there are sections that are in the standard one that you don't really want for a particular group of employees, you can actually, obviously there are some that you're going to need to keep, but you can have some control over what you're capturing in here. So continue down to the next section, and this is where I've just popped my little quick custom portlet. So you've got your personal information, your global info down here under where we've got the contact info. Here I've just quickly popped in a custom MDF, a custom portlet information. So that's how it would look. So yeah, I think that's really useful, and I can think of lots of customers that would be keen on implementing something like that. So yeah, that's a win from my perspective, I think. Just jump back into my slides. Hire duties is another big one that has been introduced in the previous release. We did do a spotlight session on this, which was quite a comprehensive review. So if you didn't manage to catch that, just try and dig that out and take a look at that, because it gives lots of information. But basically, what we can now do is we've got an action available in SuccessFactors if you've got this configured, which allows you to add a hire duty or a temporary assignment arrangement for an employee. So it pops into this list that we've got here. And when you select that, it pops up this form where you can enter your information about that arrangement. And so the types of information that you're wanting to capture in here, apart from obviously the position that they're being assigned to, is, you know, whether they're taking up 100% of the duties of that role, or whether they're just taking it on from a delegation perspective. In terms of the costings, are they going to be getting paid 100% of the difference between their substantive REM and the REM for the acting arrangement, and that type of thing. So there's a bit of information that needs to be input in here. But then once that's all been filled out and approved, it will put the employee into that position that they're going to be working in for the period of the higher duties. It will apply the relevant higher duties allowance based on, you know, the options that you've selected during this process. And then it will also make it really visible to the organisation, you know, where someone is sitting. So you've got this, this is like the banner at the top of the people profile, where you can see the substantive information about their position, and then the higher duties role, and you can kind of toggle between those to see that information. And then this little photo in the bottom corner here is from the org chart, so it's really visible to users when one of these arrangements is in play. So yeah, really useful functionality. It's kind of part of the public sector management release, but it's not confined to that. So if you'll be able, if you want to implement this, you can look at implementing it. The next item is around skipping duplicate approvers in a workflow. So this is where you might have an approver in a workflow as a manager, but they also have another role in that workflow. And so currently the workflow would come to that person twice, which is obviously not efficient. So we have the ability now through the admin opt-in to actually skip those steps. But it will only skip those steps if they're consecutive. So if in this example, Dora, is in kind of step 2 and step 4, that approval would still need to take place. But if they're consecutive, then that can be skipped. And this obviously, reduces the length of time, potentially improves efficiency in the process without affecting the data quality. So the next item is the new gender field. So I know that I've previously had lots of conversations with customers about the gender fields as well in Employee Central. So we were a little bit limited previously with our standard field being male or female, and then having the opportunity to upgrade that to then include a couple of other options around undisclosed and other, but it was kind of limiting. So now what we've got is the option under the global information specific to Australia. We can actually create a new pick list here. So the standard one that they've kind of released here for this pick list is the female-male indeterminate, but I've actually added in, because it is a pick list, you can then add to it. And so I've added kind of non-binary, prefer not to answer in an edited version. And so that gives us a bit more flexibility in terms of the gender recording. It's a bit more inclusive, and this is a standard field now. So we'll replicate. You'd need to map it to the options in your payroll solution, but yeah, just gives a bit more flexibility in the relation to the genders we can record. Mass data management. So this feature is specifically in relation to being able to update position data in Employee Central. So you can basically define a group of positions that you want to update using this kind of user interface, and you can update them kind of en masse. So I'm going to jump into the system and show you this one. All right, I'll just move this. So what we've got here is the ability to kind of create a template. So these are two mass change requests that I have previously created when just playing around with this solution, but I can come back to those shortly. But if I just click on create, So this is create a new position mass change, is just the label that I've entered there when I created this template. What we can do up the top is enter our effective date for the change that we're wanting to make. And then up here, we've got some filters, effective date for when we want to look at the data. We've got some filters up here for kind of narrowing down the positions, the search for the positions that we want to update. So I can come in here and go, I just want to look at Australian positions. Tick. Maybe I want to narrow that down a bit further and say in Sydney. And obviously it depends, what the information is that you, where did it go? So maybe I want to look at all grade 8s as well. And then, so just trying to really narrow down my search criteria and then click go. And then it's producing a list of hits based on the criteria that I've entered. You can define what those filters are up the top there as well. And then I can come in here and I can say, yep, all of these positions I want to change, or, I only want to change 1 or 2. And then edit. And what I can do here then is say I want to make both of these positions a different grade. I can then apply that change. And that's now saved as a draft. Okay. And then I've got the option to share that draft with someone if I need it to be reviewed, or I can submit that down here, the submit option, and that's going to make the change to my position data. And then when I go back in, once it's been processed and I have a look at the position object, I can see the history there in the way that you would expect when you're editing an object. And also if a position to job info sync has been set up for that particular piece of data that you've modified, that will trigger that sync to the employee information as well for the incumbents of those positions. And then if I just cancel out of there a second.
Joe, just a quick time check. You have 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Okay. And so these ones here are ones that I've done previously. You can see that one of them was shared, and you can also download a log. Okay, so for tracking purposes. All right, out of there. I'll just talk quickly to this one. So if customers are using document generation, the administrators who have access to generate documents en masse have this new option down here whereby they can opt whether they want the emails of those documents to come to the job owner or to the individual employees. Note that there is a maximum of 500. Oops. For that job, so you wouldn't be able to just select by legal entity potentially. You would need to actually narrow down your criteria for who you're wanting to send these to using this user selection by rule. But that's just a bit of added functionality in there, and that was a customer request. So good new option. Timesheet UI. So we've got a new look and feel to the timesheet. I was just going to quickly show you this one. Oops. So if I just quickly proxy as an employee. This is available to people who are using Timesheet currently, and you can go in and upgrade to this and in your test environment and just have a look at, you know, how this looks for your particular configuration, because there are some limitations around, you know, custom fields and things like that. So definitely recommend to enable this, you know, and have a play with it before it goes anywhere near production. But basically, you've got a 2-month view, similar to what you have. So it looks a little bit like time off. The point in time that you click on in the calendar here will be the time that gets displayed in the central area, and then you create your time entries on the right hand side over here. You do also have the option to create absences from this screen as well. So yeah, a bit of a different look and feel, very much so from the existing one. So yeah, if you're using Timesheet and you're interested in this, just enable it in the test environment and have a play, see what you think. So this change is around employee time. So there's quite a few changes actually around time off. This one, previously, if somebody was on leave, everybody could see that, you know, in the org chart, in the little quick card, and in the profile banner. Now you are able to actually put some permissions in place there, which will be respected. So only the people with access to time data for those employees will be able to see it. Ad hoc time accounts is another really good one. Will enable customers to be able to create ad hoc time accounts for those kind of one-off events, such as, you know, if a relocation, potentially study leave, purchase leave, you can create the time account and you can pop in and apply that quota to the employee individually as required. Sorry, just rushing through these now. Purchase leave for time accounts, so this is my last one, is a new form, a new functionality that is there now as well. So obviously provides that ability for employees to have like a nice UI for applying to purchase leave, and administrators can request it on their behalf through here as well. All right, that's me. So whizzing through those, I will now hand over to Divya to take you through the people analytics side of things. Thank you.
Thanks, Jo. A quick introduction while I bring up my screen. Okay, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen. So a very warm welcome to everyone and happy Thursday, especially to to everyone who's joined from Melbourne in light of the recent, you know, lockdown news that you, and good to have you back in the session. To those who've attended, you know, either of the 2 sessions that we've previously had, you've heard me talk through stories in people analytics quite a few times, and to the ones who haven't joined us before, a brief recap of what stories is, what does it mean to you as a customer. Also, we'll highlight features of stories, and with focus on, you know, demonstrating some of the reports very quickly and summarizing that, concluding that with a case study from a customer who's gone live with stories. With that, we'll jump right in. Just going to do a quick time check for myself. Thank you. Okay, now before we get into what stories in people analytics is, let's discuss the 3 main components that make up the people analytics suite. So that's essentially operational reporting, workforce analytics, and workforce planning. Now, operational reporting gives you a current state analysis of your employee data. What is my headcount looking as of a particular point in time, as of today? I've spoken about FTE quite a few times, so I'll talk about gender pay gap. I'll talk about what is my FTE variance. What is my workforce profile looking like as of today in terms of diversity, inclusion, people from the users or the employees in my organization. What is the origin, ethnicity, the age of your workforce, length of service, gender. all of these questions as of a point in time will be answered through operational reporting tools, also known as your HR transactional reports. Now, Stories is SAP's most recent, as of your Q4 2019, release to all of its SuccessFactors customers. It's generally available with no additional licensing required. Is a significant uplift to your reporting experience in comparison to what you already have if you're a SuccessFactors customers, i.e. your legacy reporting tool being your Canvas, the ones that you use for Employee Central, for example, your tiles, dashboards, and to your table reports. Why do we say it? Why do we say it's a significant uplift to user experience? It uses it is an embedded version of the Enterprise SAP Analytics Cloud tool, the Enterprise Analytics tool, which is a leg of the intelligent enterprise of the SAP Business Suite itself. What does that mean for you as a customer? It has presentation style reports, which are immediately consumable, to your business consumers. They are very easy to interpret. They're even more easier to put together. And it is what we see, as a result of the conversations that we have with our customers. We often see our customers saying, oh, okay, so this is something that we have Power BI doing, at the moment, or other tools, but now it's generally available to all of, to us as a part of the platform. So it's definitely something that gets customers excited. SAP has indicated that, customers should look to transitioning over to Stories from legacy reporting tools, the ones that I've just mentioned, sooner rather than later. We don't have a definitive timeline or a roadmap that they've drawn out about when this transition should absolutely take place. But we've seen that early adopters have realized value, in some of the templates that have been delivered and the custom reports that we're providing them. So that is Stories. Now, talking about the workforce analytics and planning component. Now, workforce analytics, I'll just give you a brief overview, because the focus of today's session being Stories and to generate awareness and interest. With workforce analytics, the questions that get answered, the questions that customers have are, what's happening with my work? What has happened in my workforce over a period of time? So it gives you a historic view of your employee data. Say, for example, how has my headcount fared over the past 5-6 years? I use the word fared because has it increased or decreased? How does this look over different areas of my business, over different demographics of my workforce itself? For women, whether it's gender, whether it is different sections of your employees, nationalities, etc. Now, in proportion to that, you can have how is the staffing rate, in correlation to these various stats that you see in terms of a trend analysis. How does this appear? So workforce analytics, there are various features, but today I'll talk about trend analysis and benchmarking. Through trend analysis, you can focus on, you get insights into what's happened, what your data has looked like in the past, which will allow you to plan for the future. And benchmarking in the sense of how have we fared internally in terms of comparison, as well as externally. Within an organization, you may have various, departments that you want to have a comparison of in terms of attrition rate, in terms of employee turnaround, whether it's, performance. And so you can do this internally as well as externally as well, in terms of how our competitors are faring. So that was quickly running through workforce analytics, whereas workforce planning is, again, you're forecasting, identifying and addressing the gaps in your workforce, being able to identify what are the critical resources that are required. Do we have this at the moment? And then plan for the future. Also be able to throw into the mix, getting a better understanding of what the financial implications of your workforce plan are, and then, cost modeling. So you have a lot of investigative tools that support this process as well. So that's workforce planning. In the future, it will, SAP again has indicated that it will be called SAC planning, which is SAP Analytics Cloud, hence bringing together the forces of workforce planning and SAP Analytics Cloud. So that was a very quick overview of workforce analytics and planning, and the main focus of today, the transactional reporting aspect. Now, stories and people analytics. Now, these 6 key features I will demonstrate to you. So I'll move over to our instance, and I will talk you through each of these features as I demonstrate the reports. This deck will be shared with you, so you can read through these features as well. With that, okay. So this is what a story report looks like. I've jumped straight in, but these are available in what most of us are familiar with as Report Center for SuccessFactors customers. For the new ones, Report Center is a one-stop shop, is what I generally call it, for all things reporting. So all your legacy reports, including your story reports, will be available in Report Center. What you have in front of you is called a Canvas report. Let's not get confused with our, Canvas type of reporting. Canvas, being synonymous to where we paint and we draw, etc. The reason they've called it Canvas is because we can put together our data and represent it in any way that we see fit for our business consumers to easily and quickly consume, and to be able to make, the decisions that they need to make, that their role requires them to make. So, as you can see, there are different types or there are different methods in which we can represent data. So what you see here are numeric points, which are stats. So this is a report that represents your workforce analysis. It gives you insights into your workforce analysis. So the headcount as of today being 76, the accumulated, or the actual FTE being 75.80. So these, again, and just taking a step back, this is a template or a standard report that's delivered by SAP. These can be modified to suit customer requirements, as well as, we can create reports from scratch. Again, very straightforward to put together a query. There are 42 reports as of today that have been made available to our customers, predominantly ranging across Employee Central Time, apprenticeship management. So yeah, that was the pre-delivered part of it. So what you see here are, let me go into edit mode so we have better understanding of, yeah. So in terms of, we can see that, I'm just going to take this chart for reference purposes. So in this legal entity, we see that for Alpha Limited, the breakup of, the gender, we have 7 male and we have 4 female. Now, I spoke about linked analysis as a feature, right? Linked analysis is a common requirement of our customers which allow us to drill to detail across various other aspects of our configuration, such as here you have legal entity. Now we could then generate stats dynamically. This is Murphy's Law. But so we can again generate information across business units, division, various other aspects of it. So I'm just going to uncheck that and hope that it all works magically. Yeah, it does. So that's your linked analysis. In terms of Explorer mode, now for me as a publisher or content creator, wanting to put together a chart, say from scratch, obviously this is a final result that you see, but there's a process that allows you to get to this stage. So that is called Explorer mode, where me as a publisher go in and decide on the best representation of data. And just in the interest of time, feel free to reach out to us for deeper sessions, deep dive sessions. But I will now speak about Bookmark, another feature, which allows you to save views that are specific to the consumer itself. Now, me as an exec level or a business partner, a manager, a SME, or a group of people who form the community of expertise, we require representations of data in different formats, and the data itself that we need maybe comes from the same report, but is visually the way we consume it is different. Now, Story reports allows us to bookmark different views, can be shared, can be kept to ourselves for analysis and insights. So that's another feature that me as a publisher itself have found really useful, because the view that I'm working on need not be the one that I save or share with my, my various report consumers on that spectrum. Now, you have the features listed in the deck that we will share. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was custom reports. There is no limitation to the manner in which we can put together these reports. So what you saw there previously, again, this is just to demonstrate to you that the theme, the layout, all of this can be aligned to your company theming requirements, because I have a lot of customers ask me about that. So this was just to demonstrate, yes, we can go as whack as possible and put together, as many or as few chart components as is required, based on, what it should be targeted to your business consumer ultimately in terms of the specific insights that they require. So, yep, this is not rendering. So with that, I know I have 3 minutes before I hand over to Eddie. I'm going to try and run another report. Let's call it, okay. Again, this is to demonstrate to you the kind of custom reports that we can build, the complexity of calculations it supports, unlike any of your legacy reporting tools. And also to demonstrate in terms of your presentation style, everything that you can do with these story reports. So literally none of my reports are being generated, so that's fine. What I will do is I will switch back to presentation mode and run us through the case study. Okay. Now, I wanted to end with this because it's important for our customers to understand and I guess realize how much of an improvement this is, what value you can expect to receive by upgrading to this reporting tool, and what our customers are saying where we've implemented stories for. So we've spoken to one of our customers where we've implemented this. They're a leading South Australian domestic gas supplier. And this was rolled out to all of their users. Primarily, the business consumers, that is their business leaders, what I've highlighted here, 700 of them have seen and realized immediate value to them because they can, of course, these reports are available for self-service, governed by your permission framework. So they're able to immediately access these dashboards. They're ready to run with minimal to no, customization required of the standard reports itself. And I think what's made them really excited is the fact that the whole data crunching exercise that they needed to go through to make these, to develop these reports and to put them together to make them, again, available for their business leaders or consumers, which took a really long period of time. They've seen a significant reduction of effort and time because of these, dashboards and, other insights readily available. So they've claimed that 60% of their time is being saved by some of these pre-delivered dashboards. And these range across, workforce demographic and compliance reports. They have, I've recently seen SAP make available the Equal Employment Opportunity Report and the Human Experience Management Disclosure Reporting as well. And then we have executive dashboards. Ultimately, I guess in summary, what the customer had to say for us when we, approached them for feedback was this allows HR as a function to position themselves strategically in the front line, being able to deliver the value that is expected, of them, transitioning from, say, operational to more that strategic support, providing that strategic support. And that's a significant transition to make, as you can see, from where they were back in 2010 to where they see themselves with this tool and, as a start in their reporting and analytics journey by towards the end of 2022. So for us, we consider that a huge win. And I think with that, I'll stop and hand over to Eddie.
Thank you, Divya. That was fantastic, and I agree. Stories in people analytics is a game changer as far as the reporting landscape from SuccessFactors is concerned. I'd just like to spend a couple of minutes to wrap up. So we took a look today at key features from platform, Employee Central, and also stories in people analytics. For those of you who would like to seek help or assistance in implementing these releases from SuccessFactors or managing it, we do have an annual offering, and some of our customers are on this session today. But the highlights of what our offering is, it includes the ability for you as a customer to just appreciate the business outcome of these features or these releases. We take ownership for the configuration. We even provide you advice on the maturity of some of these features, if it makes sense for you to not turn it on right now and wait for another release, so that whatever's on the roadmap or the fit for purpose that we think it is currently available for, these are the type of things we bring to the table by leveraging a team of global consultants. Yeah. We run this on an annual basis, so we cover 2 releases in one go, thereby optimizing the timeline, the amount of content that we cover, as well as conscious as to how much of an effort this can involve from our side and your side. So we do it on an annual basis. The highlights of the release offering includes us presenting to you all of the new releases for the whole suite based on the applications you have turned on. We do an assessment of those features with you to make sure you're aware as to what they relate to and how they could impact you from a business outcome perspective. We then do the configuration of your environments. We provide you with training. We support you in UAT and then cut it over to production as well. Next slide, please, Josh. So for customers looking to engage with us in this year, we would be covering 2 releases, the second half release from last year and the first half release from this year, and we package it all together in one delivery engagement. Next slide, please. This just gives you a synopsis of the approach we take. It's a 4-stage approach that we take from a release management perspective. If you were to engage Deloitte, we would go through a preparatory phase like what we are doing right now in collating all of the features. We then present it to you. You then have a checklist of the features you would like to turn on for your respective businesses. Once you give us that checklist, we then engage with you to turn it on, give you the necessary training, support you through UAT, and then we cut it over to production. So through the prepare, engage, realize, verify, and launch phases, it's about a 5 to 7 week engagement. And that's all we had for today. If you would like to get more information about our release management approach, reach to your respective Deloitte account manager. For those of you who don't know who your account managers or not a Deloitte customer, you can reach out to the contacts that are going to be sent out when we ship out this recording, along with answers to any of the questions. We thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure. This concludes our series of release management sessions. We will be continuing with the spotlight sessions, and look out for our next topic and dates coming soon to you. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful Thursday and the rest of the week. Bye-bye.